What's up, guys, and welcome back to my channel. Khamzat has once again stirred up massive discussion by openly saying he is willing to fight Pereira at light heavyweight. The idea alone has fans split, but according to Henry Cejudo, this is a matchup where Khamzat could realistically walk away with even more gold. Khamzat recently challenged Pereira to face him on the rumored White House card in June, making it clear he is not afraid of jumping up in weight for the right fight. During a recent episode of the Pound for Pound show, Cejudo broke down how he sees Khamzat matching up against the dangerous champion. Cejudo explained that Khamzat still needs to take care of business in his own division first. In his view, Khamzat must defend his belt before even thinking about moving up. Once that happens, Cejudo believes Khamzat should face the #1 contender at light heavyweight, and only then would a fight with Pereira make complete sense. Stylistically, Cejudo believes this fight strongly favors Khamzat. He pointed out that grappling changes everything in this matchup. Cejudo emphasized that Khamzat's top control, discipline, and pressure are exactly the tools needed to neutralize a striker like Pereira. He said it is a really good fight for Khamzat, especially because he knows how to impose his will once the fight hits the mat. While expanding on his prediction, Cejudo made it clear he strongly favors Khamzat to win. He said he gives Khamzat the edge 100%. Cejudo also revealed that he had spoken to Jon Jones about Khamzat, and Jones described him as freakishly strong. According to Cejudo, Khamzat is a big athlete, standing around 6'4", the same height as Pereira. With both men being similar in size, Cejudo believes the grappling advantage becomes even more significant. Cejudo added that when you combine Khamzat's strength, size, intensity, and top control, it creates a nightmare scenario for Pereira. He also highlighted Khamzat's fight IQ, explaining that Khamzat is not going to stand and trade unnecessarily. He knows exactly where his advantage lies, and he is smart enough to take the fight there. Cejudo is not alone in thinking Khamzat could potentially end Pereira's reign at 205. However, with Khamzat still needing to defend his middleweight title, and Pereira pushing hard for a super fight with Jon Jones, this matchup does not appear likely to happen next. For now, it remains a dangerous and intriguing possibility that continues to fuel debate across the MMA world. And before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to help support the channel. Moving on to another news, Khamzat continues to express frustration with the lack of opponents willing to step in against him. Talk has surfaced about whether a fight with Imavov could be put together, but nothing appears close to being finalized. Recently, MT Gym 23 shared a video showing Khamzat speaking with a small group of people and kids during a casual moment. When asked about his next fight, Khamzat did not hesitate. He said nobody wants to fight him right now, and made it clear the situation is out of his hands. The moment shows his reputation and the difficulty of finding willing challengers. Moving on to another news, Nick Diaz has returned to the gym, and he is already sharing sharp insights after watching JDM's fight against Islam Makhachev. Fresh off being back home and training again, Nick was teaching bottom escape concepts during a class alongside Jake Shields. While demonstrating technique, he shifted into breaking down what he saw as a major mistake JDM made in that fight. Nick explained that this is exactly what is happening right now in high-level MMA, where fighters fail to understand how to get up once they are controlled on the ground. Nick said he watched the fight between Islam and the Australian and pointed out that he did not feel sorry for him because learning how to stand back up is a fundamental skill. He mentioned that people may feel bad watching it, but the reality is that JDM needed to understand the position and correct it. Nick added that he almost wanted to say something sympathetic, but then realized the issue was deeper than emotion. The problem was not effort, it was understanding. He explained that when a high-level grappler is passing your guard, it is not random. A black belt is systematically breaking your structure. Nick stressed that if it were him in that position, even without being Islam, he would pass the guard and force a tap. He emphasized that Islam is not rushing to pass and submit. Instead, Islam stays heavy, keeps control, and slowly drains you. Nick highlighted that the real issue is allowing that control to happen in the first place. JDM came into that fight undefeated, but according to Nick, he did not fully grasp why he was being held down. Nick said he had to watch 5 full rounds of the same situation in a title fight between 2 of the best fighters in the world. From his perspective, that was hard to watch. He went on to explain that JDM failed to execute proper leverage. Nick broke it down simply, saying the knee is the leverage. You insert the knee, disrupt the base, and systematically break the control. Once that structure is broken, you can bring the arm underneath and build back to your feet. Nick said watching 3 rounds of someone not understanding that was frustrating. Overall, Nick's breakdown was less about criticism and more about fundamentals. His message was clear that elite fights expose technical gaps, and without mastering leverage and escapes, even the most talented fighters can be controlled for entire rounds. He closed by stressing that grappling awareness separates contenders from champions, and consistent drilling, humility, and repetition are required to survive against dominant control specialists at the very top level of modern MMA today. Moving on to another news, we now know what may be behind Derrick Lewis getting into what he calls the best shape of his life. Recent photos circulating online showed the Black Beast looking noticeably leaner, sharper, and in excellent condition, which immediately caught the attention of fans. The transformation led to plenty of speculation, and Lewis himself has now offered an explanation. During a recent episode of the Beast and the Cowboy podcast, Lewis revealed that peptides played a major role in his improved recovery and overall performance. According to Lewis, these peptides were provided to him through the UFC, and he described the impact as a complete game changer for his training. He said he felt different almost immediately and did not hesitate to praise how much better his body has been responding. Lewis explained that he is currently in the best shape of his life, not just physically, but mentally as well. He said everything is clicking right now and that he feels perfect heading into this phase of his career. Lewis added that he has been taking the peptides every day and noticed a major improvement in how his body recovers between sessions. His coach, Bob Perez, also spoke about the noticeable changes during training. Perez said he was extremely proud of Lewis and described one recent session as watching a video game character come to life. According to Perez, Lewis was reacting instantly to instructions and adjustments, showing a level of mental clarity that stood out right away. Perez emphasized that Lewis's recovery was unbelievable. After completing intense rounds, including hard 3 5-minute efforts, Lewis still had energy left. On a day that is usually reserved as the lightest training session of the week, Lewis surprised the team by wanting to continue with strength and conditioning, followed by heavy bag work. Perez admitted he was genuinely mind-blown by how quickly Lewis bounced back. The coach added that the speed at which the peptides seemed to take effect was shocking and believes it could be a long-term difference maker. Overall, both Lewis and his team are convinced this shift has elevated his preparation to another level, setting the stage for a potentially dangerous run moving forward. Moving on to another news, Jeff Novitzky has responded directly to Derrick Lewis and shut down claims that the UFC provided him with peptides. After Lewis suggested on a podcast that peptides were part of his recent transformation, Novitzky took to X to clarify the situation. Novitzky stated that the UFC did not provide Derrick Lewis with peptides and made it clear that peptides are prohibited at all times under UFC and Athletic Commission rules. He explained that Lewis was actually referring to injectable compounds that are third-party tested and certified as legal at all times through True Shield certified programs. Moving on to another news, Conor has once again sent shockwaves through the MMA world after making a surprising claim about his UFC contract. Recently, Conor has been appearing on multiple live streams, and during one of them, some potentially massive information slipped out. In an unexpected setting, a Roblox live stream, Conor revealed that his existing UFC contract may now be void. According to Conor, the situation changed due to the new UFC and Paramount deal. He explained that his previous contract with the UFC still had 2 fights remaining, but that agreement was structured around pay-per-view sales. With the new deal reportedly removing traditional pay-per-views from the model, Conor claims his contract is no longer valid. He stated that because there are no longer pay-per-views under Paramount, the terms his deal was based on no longer apply. Conor went on to say that he is now preparing to negotiate a brand new contract with the UFC in February. He added that he is very interested in securing a spot on the rumored White House event and made it clear that he is still fully committed to a comeback. Conor emphasized that he is locked in at the gym, living the lifestyle, and preparing seriously for a return to competition. During the stream, Conor spoke about warming up for a potential White House fight and expressed excitement about the prestige of the event. He mentioned the new Paramount deal being worth around $7.7 billion and claimed that the company has massively increased its profits. Conor pointed out that he is the highest generating pay-per-view fighter of all time and suggested that the pay-per-view system being phased out puts him in a position to demand a new deal. He explained that his focus right now is on what he can control. Conor said he is training daily, prioritizing his health, resting properly, listening to his coaches, and sticking closely to the game plan. He stressed that external noise means nothing to him and that his mindset remains strong. Conor also talked about setting an example for his kids and his team, saying that you have to live and breathe the work every single day. These comments immediately sparked speculation about why Dana White may have shut down the idea of Conor fighting Michael Chandler on the White House card. If Conor's claims are accurate, it could explain why negotiations appear stalled or complicated. If his contract is truly void, that would technically make Conor a free agent. That scenario opens several possibilities. Conor could potentially compete under his own promotion, BKFC, or leverage his position to secure one of the biggest single-fight paydays in combat sports history by signing a short-term deal with the UFC. However, until there is official confirmation from Dana White or the UFC, all of this should be taken cautiously. For now, Conor's words have added yet another dramatic twist to his already unpredictable future. Moving on to another news, Islam Makhachev has reacted to the growing controversy surrounding Michael Morales and his professional record. Morales is once again listed as undefeated on Topology, but it is clear that Islam is not buying into how the situation has unfolded. The discussion reignited after Topology revealed it had learned Morales was choked out in a bout back in 2017, which took place on an Ecuadorian reality television show. Following that discovery, Morales' record was briefly changed to 19-1. The update immediately caused debate across the MMA community. Morales fired back on social media, calling out the site, while Sherdog stepped in with a different conclusion. Sherdog announced that Morales' welterweight record would not be altered, explaining that the bout in question was classified as an exhibition and not a professional fight. Jay Petrie from Sherdog explained publicly that the reality show matches were reviewed years ago and were determined to be tape-delayed exhibitions, meaning they would not count toward a fighter's official pro record. Not long after, Topology reversed its decision and aligned with Sherdog's ruling. As a result, Morales returned to having an undefeated professional record on both platforms. While many fans moved on, Islam Makhachev did not. Speaking recently with Match TV, the lightweight champion shared his blunt reaction to the entire situation. Islam pointed out how quickly the record changed, saying that Morales was not undefeated just a few days earlier, but suddenly was again. He added that he did not understand how the loss was removed, explaining that he personally saw the fight in a cage where Morales was choked out. Islam said that afterward, it was suddenly announced to be an exhibition match. He followed that up with a sharp comment, saying that if it does not count, then Morales needs to be choked out again. The remark instantly grabbed attention and was seen by many as a warning shot. There is already speculation that Islam and Morales could cross paths in the future. Morales has been on an impressive run, going 7-0 inside the UFC so far. In his most recent outing, he scored a dominant win over Sean Brady, further solidifying his place among the elite at welterweight. He is currently ranked number 4 in the division and continues to build momentum. Despite all the noise around the record controversy, the UFC is unlikely to factor a reality show fight from nearly a decade ago into any matchmaking decisions. Morales remains one of the most dangerous rising contenders in the sport, and Islam's comments have only added more intrigue to what could be a massive future clash between two dominant forces. Moving on to another news, speculation around the UFC White House event continues to grow, especially regarding which fighters will be allowed to compete on such a historic card. Ever since the June 14th date was announced, fans have expected something truly special, but recent comments suggest there may be major limitations. Based on remarks connected to Merab, it appears Russian fighters may not be permitted to compete on the White House card at all. The event is expected to be one of the most prestigious in UFC history due to its location, which is why expectations are extremely high. Recently, TMZ Sports spoke with John Anik and asked him how he would book the headline fights for the card. Anik said the heavyweight title fight would make the most sense, suggesting a rematch between Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane. He also acknowledged that many fans want to see John Jones versus Alex Pereira, but admitted that fight remains uncertain. Anik added that he would like to see Jan versus Merab in a co-main event for the bantamweight title. He said he is hopeful the UFC can book 4 or 5 undisputed title fights on the White House lawn, and joked that he hopes those words are heard. Many fans would love to see Jan and Merab fight again, but Merab recently explained why that is not happening on this card. According to Merab, the UFC told him he is next in line for the belt and that a trilogy with Jan will happen. However, they also informed him that the fight cannot take place at the White House because Jan is Russian, making it impossible. If this policy applies broadly, it would rule out several elite fighters, including Islam Makhachev, from competing on the card. Setting that aside, questions remain about whether Aspinall versus Gane is big enough to headline such an event, especially since neither fighter is American. Dana White has said American fighters are not required, but Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira would clearly be a much bigger attraction. That said, Dana has repeatedly stated that fight is not planned, largely because he cannot rely on Jon Jones. It is also unclear whether Aspinall will even be ready by June after undergoing surgeries on both eyes. Anik's idea of stacking the card with multiple title fights is possible, but doing so could weaken other events scheduled before and after the White House show. Another major factor is whether Conor ends up being involved. Any fight featuring Conor would be bigger than Aspinall versus Gane. However, Dana recently said the UFC is no longer considering Michael Chandler as Conor's opponent, since 3 years have passed since that fight was first discussed. Chael Sonnen later explained that Chandler made sense because the details did not matter, other than the fact that Conor would not return at 155 pounds. Sonnen also dismissed the idea of Nate Diaz or Jorge Masvidal as opponents. He suggested that if Conor does return, the UFC would want someone capable of fighting multiple times afterward. Sonnen ultimately said he believes Conor is fully retired, but if he does come back, the UFC will give him a real and dangerous opponent.